welcome back to the First Strike North America Closed Qualifiers, presented to you by Nerd Street Gamers. Earlier, we brought you some spicy action from Group A, where Cloud9 Blue and 100 Thieves have managed to qualify for the playoffs. Of course, we had to sadly say goodbye to Luminosity, but they will have another chance at the UMG qualifiers next week. But for now, it's time for some Group C action, and it's once again quite a spicy group. And joining me are your casters, Dust and On Fire Vince, for the next two best of threes. Guys, it's great to have you on the stream. It's great to see you, Dust, but I just want to say I'm loving this Brit takeover because I've been the single Brit sat in my dark room all week, and everyone's asking, like, why is your room so dark and everyone else's rooms have daylight? It's because it's midnight over here in the UK, and Vince, I'm sure you can relate. But how have you found the competition so far, Vince, this weekend?
It's been a lot of fun. I've been sort of chilling and watching and obviously researching for when we jumped live, and it's been great. You know, I think there's been a couple of twists and turns, but by and large, things have set in motion as I think a lot of people have expected. And now in our first game of the day, we've been very fortunate because we have a great match. We have one of the best teams, not just in North America, the world, against on the Spike GG, the third best team in NA. So we couldn't really have asked for a much better one to kick things off.
Well, to look a bit more in depth into our group, of course, like you said, we have Sentinels taking on MV next, and whichever team loses will then have to play Dignitas. Dust, what are your predictions for this group, and which two teams do you think will make it to that playoffs?
I mean, I think that it's pretty much set up the way that you would expect. I mean, we honestly really haven't had any shocking things go on this tournament, in my opinion, other than Complexity coming out first seed in their group. That was a little bit different than I anticipated. But when you look at how the rest of things have played out, other than like kind of the mystery factor of 100 Thieves, because, you know, this is kind of just them coming together in this qualifier, I think everything has pretty much gone according to plan. You know, I think Sentinels had a closer game against Dignitas than I thought, especially that Haven game going into overtime. But yeah, I definitely expected to see Envy and Sentinels in this winner's match. I definitely expected to see Dignitas waiting for the loser for the next playoff spot. So I think so far, everything's kind of gone as you would think.
But would you then say, as an extension, in theory, even if, let's say, Sentinels are the ones were to lose this matchup against Envy, they would still have a greater chance of making it anyway, because you think they're going to be able to beat Dignitas?
Absolutely. I think Sentinels are the best team in North America by far. I mean, they've had several titles over the last few months leading into this qualifier. Really, the only blemish on their record recently, if you kind of look at the history, is just when they had like that one loss in the like open qualifiers against Gen G. I mean, everything else though has been solid. I mean, taking first in Pop Flash, second in the FaZe Clan Invitational. They won the 30 Bomb Summer Cup and PAX Arena. So I mean, they have definitely been riding high for quite some time. They've been the team to beat. I think Sentinels, man for man, is the most skilled lineup in NA. You know, I think there's a couple of players out there that are like definitely stars, like a Wardell or a Tens, and some other names will go in there. But if you line up rosters man to man, I think Sentinels is the most overall skilled team in NA, and they've shown that time and time again.
Well, Vince, you also mentioned that you think Sentinels are one of the best teams, well, the best team in North America and one of the best teams in the world. Are there any of the players on that roster that's particularly impressed you?
I would say Sinatra is probably the one that I would go towards. I think he has some incredible mechanics on him. The likes of his Silver play is really, really solid, and you're going to see some great things from the guy. So he's certainly one player that I'd look towards to really be leading the charge. And obviously from our CSGO kind of background, Dust and I have seen a lot of Shazam. We know this guy is very capable when it comes to sniping, a very, very talented and skillful player. So I think those are probably the two that I'll be looking at. But honestly, as Dust said, top to bottom, that roster is pretty damn stacked in terms of talent.
What about you, Dust?
No, I think, as we've already kind of been alluding to, that whole team is absolutely incredible. I think the big thing about Sinatra, just to kind of tie into what Vince has been saying, he's probably the best Sova I've ever seen. He's also very creative with you know, agents like Raze in particular on Split, and just a guy that is a complete X factor. Like, you basically put him within a default setup, but he's the one that's going to have the most variance. He's the one that's going to be dictating the pace, you know, taking control, being a nuisance. He has all these like wild, crazy pushes. He's innovated at times. I mean, the reason why you see Sova spams on Ascent on the B-Bomb site is because of someone like Sinatra. So I think that he's very creative, very witty, and also very skilled with his aim. So definitely, I'll just kind of echo that. And I think Sick is the other big one. I mean, he is the one guy who, through it all, has still stuck with Sage. He's like the one holdout. Obviously, there's been a couple of maps where that's changed. He's playing Breach on Ascent now. Looks like he's playing Phoenix on Haven. This guy is incredible. I mean, he was always a very skilled player in CSGO as well in the North American scene, and he's really carried over. I think he's one of the best players in NA, aside people like Sinatra, Tens, Wardell, and again, you could throw a few other names in there. I think that between those two, they just are such heavy hitters. And again, people like Shazam and Dapper aren't too far behind skill-wise.
It's interesting that you mentioned Wardell and TSM. I just wanted to quickly highlight that before we jump into map picks, because TSM have dropped a map against a Renegades. I know you said that the only sort of big upsets we've seen so far is that Complexity making it cleanly through their group. But there is a chance that, TSM might drop a game and move down to that lower bracket. I'm sure they'll have no problem getting out of it if that were to happen. But what does that say about this team right now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't expect TSM to really have too much trouble. I mean, I feel like aside from, Sentinels and now we see like the rise of teams like Cloud9 and Envy, it seems like TSM's always been one of the other teams in the North American scene that has consistently had finals appearances or, usually at least placed within the top 4 of most of the events heading into this qualifier. So I would have thought that, sure, TSM should probably come through first seed in Group D, especially because I felt top to bottom that might have been one of the weaker groups in comparison to some of the others. So yeah, the fact that they dropped them after Renegades is certainly a little bit surprising. I think it's more surprising the fashion in which they lost it, because it seemed like it was really one-sided. They didn't get their defense going at all. But I mean, I would still expect them to ultimately win that series. And even if they don't, I think that the slimy boogermen are probably about to get flicked off into the Kleenex, and we'll see TSM still come on through. Okay, by the way, why is that a team name? Can we just throw that one out there? Is that a conversation we can have? I bet you there's just organizations out there chomping at the bit to pick up slimy boogermen. I feel like that's really the PR they're looking for.
Well, I will say that yesterday on stream, we had Doug and Simo as our casters, and they came up with like a fandom for the Slimy Boogermen. I believe it was the Boogie Bandits or the Boogie Boys. So
they could have done better, I feel like. I feel like, there's Booger Pickers. I mean, there's digging for gold. Like, I feel like there's a lot more they could have done there, But hey, teach their own.
It was late, to be fair, but I think we'll definitely come back to you the next time we are thinking of a new nickname for them. Yeah, but I believe we can really quickly just talk about map picks because they are in. Envy had the first ban. They banned Split, which means Sentinels have picked Bind as the first map. Then we're going to go into Haven. And lastly, if it does go to a map 3, we will play Ascent. So yes, Bind, Haven, then Ascent. Now, does that change anything? Which team do you think this is favoring?
I mean, look, when you look at the head-to-head history between these two teams, Sentinels has beat them every single best series they've played. Now, obviously, it's worth noting that Envy's roster was different back then with guys like Calypso and Akis on the team instead of, Food and Crashies coming on board over from T1. But the track record really stands in favor of Sentinels, and it really hasn't mattered the map. I mean, I think out of 14 maps played between the two teams, Envy's only won 2 of those, once on Split, once on Haven, and both those games were even quite close. A lot of the losses Envy have suffered to Sentinels have been blowouts. I will say the one thing that's interesting to me about this is that throughout the qualifiers thus far, we haven't really seen, Sentinels play pretty much anything outside of like Split and Ascent. Like they've been pretty much playing those two maps left and right. I think they did one game against Haven, against Dignitas, which I believe was the one that went into overtime, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the one interesting thing is seeing Bind come into play a little bit more, because again, it's something we haven't really seen Sentinels play at all this qualifier. But again, when you look at Sentinels, they have a really high win percentage on pretty much every single map. Over 20 wins on every map except for Haven. So yeah, I'm really liking their chances no matter what the map pool is, to be honest with you. I think the only thing that might change my mind is if Emmy can put a stop to the X factor that is Sinatra. Can they limit them from getting early map control, getting orbs, trying to slow down the pacing of Sentinels? And the flip side of that is Envy's a very explosive team. What does Sentinels do to disrupt that? Like that'll be, I think, what I look forward to in this series, but I'm still taking Sentinels.
Well, we don't have to wait that much longer because the players are ready. It is Sentinels versus Envy, and the first map is Bind. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Yinsu. Indeed, we will be jumping into this best of 3 very shortly. Dustin, I wanted to echo your thoughts. I think in terms of stats, the fact of the matter is, although Envy have been in pretty decent form as of late, 8 wins and 2 losses in the last 10 games, ultimately Sentinels will be the massive favorite. I think that's a fair assessment that most people would share. Out of these 3 maps, though, do you think that there's a potential banana peel, Dust, or do you think it's just a case of it should be a clean sweep regardless?
I mean, with this new lineup, you know, with Food and company on board, we have seen Envy really putting in the work on Bind, which is map again. We haven't really been seeing Sentinels play a whole lot recently. So I think that there is a chance there that, you know, Envy has been able to actually show some impressive results on Bind. Their Ascents also really looked a little bit improved. Granted, a lot of the games they've played with this new lineup has been in the open qualifiers against, don't mean to be mean, but let's be fair, lesser competition, especially in some of those early bracket matches like round of 128, round 164. You know, those types of teams were teams that weren't really that noteworthy in comparison to the teams they're facing now. So that makes their stats a little bit inflated with this new lineup. But I do think Ascent and Bind are probably areas where, with this new lineup, Envy might be able to go toe to toe with Sentinels a little bit better, at least force some close games, and kind of see how it goes from there.
So in terms of key matchups then, head-to-head, player-to-player, what are you looking at here in our very first map? Who do you think we should be keeping an eye on in terms of any potential fireworks kicking off?
It's Bind, correct, for this first map, if I'm not mistaken?
I believe so,
Just
yes.
making sure. Yeah, so if indeed that is the case, I mean, the big thing that I want to watch out for on Bind is indeed going to be the fact of, is Sage still being played by Sick? You know, that is one of the maps alongside Split that he has continued to play Sage despite the nerfs to that character. But I have not seen them play Bind since the qualifier started. There was a pretty decent break between now and Pop Flash. So there's a chance that we might see another agent swap out of Stick coming into this map, as he's already swapped to Breach on Ascent and Phoenix on Haven. So I'm interested in just kind of seeing that, because I think that dictates a lot. And then the other big thing when I'm looking at a map like Bind, you know, I'm also looking at the ability of Sinatra. You know, I think that he's shown the capability of playing multiple different agents on this map, whether it be Phoenix, whether it be Raze, you know, whether it be still playing a bit of Sova. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what composition they bring to the table. That's what makes it hard for me to pick an actual matchup, which is kind of like your direct question, is I'm not really sure how they will adapt to like how the meta's been evolving, you know, with some of the nerfs that have gone on.
Yeah, I've just heard we might be needing to fill for a little bit longer, so let's get into the nitty-gritty then, Dust. In terms of agents that you're expecting to be played, we've already mentioned Sinatra. It's pretty much going to be Sova you'd expect him to be picking up, but apart from potentially Sova, who else are you expecting to see here picked up on Sentinels to kick things off?
I mean, from Sinatra, I think he has like a 70% pick rate of Phoenix on Bind. But again, haven't really seen a whole lot of Bind out of them recently, so I'm not really sure. Again, mystery to me on Sick. The only things I know for sure is that you're going to see, you know, Zoms continue to play Brim. You're going to see Dapper continue to play Cypher. Those are insta-locks for those two players. We used to see Shazam play a lot of Sova on Bind, and that's why, you know, Sinatra was a little bit more of a heavy Phoenix player. But we have seen Shazam like really commit to Jet in almost every single map so far this qualifier, whereas in the past, you would sometimes see him bring out, you know, other agents, you know, like Sova on Bind, for instance, or like Breach. He played very high amount on Ascent, but with Six switching over to playing Breach on Ascent, we've seen Shazam go just basically pure Jet. So yeah, I think there's a lot of factors involved on that side, and I'm not really sure exactly how it's going to shake down. Whereas the Envy side, it's a little bit more kind of known what you're going to see there, I think.
Speaking of which, then, what would you expect to see on the Envy side? I think we've seen Caboose taking more Reyna lately, but in terms of overall, synonymous with Phoenix, I think it's safe to say. So, I mean, are you expecting to see some Phoenix? Although I've just been informed that we are loading into Bind now, so we don't have to fill for too much longer. But what are your expectations? And I'm wondering if they will be met in a few moments' time.
Yeah, I mean, Envy's going through a lot of changes now. With Calypso kind of leaving the team and being like that permanent Omen, you're seeing it be split time between Food and Mummy, who is, you know, usually like a pure Jet Hopper. So Mummy, this is one of the maps where he's actually playing a lot of Omen, and you're probably going to be seeing Food being played, playing a little bit of something different, right? You know, maybe something like Phoenix or Raze or something along those lines.
All right, well, we have got our answers coming in on Bind. Envy starting off things on the defense side, with Sentinels getting a bit more aggressive. Sova has been picked up, and Caboose in the meanwhile in Hookah joined alongside the Phoenix, throwing in the paint shell, forcing back the oncoming attackers, and they will dart away. Phoenix has been wrecked, so he has to drop his Molotov just to heal himself, and that's pretty significant.
Yeah, Sinatra and company trying to put that pressure on Hookah, but Envy able to fortify positioning there, and it's kind of drawing Sentinels backwards to that short A position. It's just like they want to execute this direction. They have Cypher looking showers, but the rest are certainly looking to come. A cage was placed to try to slow down the short A attack and try to maintain control of U-Haul, which is what Sentinels want, but instead they will just focus on getting that spike plant. But as a great shot from Finesse, despite the flash, he did hold Sinatra off, and it gives them a man advantage on this retake.
Man advantage, but good positions being taken post-plant. Sentinel looking to lock into position. And Zooms is the next to fall down. Dark cover put out. And now a 2-player advantage. Make that 3. Envy doing a great job of culling all of the attackers in his post plant. And although Sick tries his best with the classic, he gets sprayed down from the frenzy. And that will be Envy. Successful retake comes in with just 1 loss of life.
Yeah, and again, another thing to note here, I mean, this pistol round obviously goes the way of Envy, but I just want to talk a little bit more about agent picks. I mean, there's no surprise to see Sinatra on the Phoenix. This was a pretty high yield pick for him. Also, this is one of those maps that we did see Shazam playing Sova, so he maintains that. But the big difference is that we are seeing Zoms go to Brimstone, which, to be fair, this is the one map he would play Brim over Omen. This is the one map he still kind of maintained that, despite the fact that Brim's kind of phased out in a lot of teams' metas. But Sick on Raze, that's new. You know, that's something that he wasn't doing before. He was, again, that very much stout Sage main. We've seen on other maps he swapped to other agents, and this map is no exception. And so it's cool to see him on a duelist alongside Sinatra, because those two can do so much together.
Gives him a lot more entering ability as well. Crashy's holding the line, though, against the aforementioned 6. Sinatra's also fallen to his Spectre, and now Food steps up to the plate. He delivers, he dispatches. A great crossfire established between the two of them, with Crashy's picking up 4. A clean sweep, flawless from Envy.
Pretty much just a mop-up round, if we're being honest there. I mean, the percentage win rate on round 2 when you win pistol is really high in this game, just because of the way the economy works out right now, and teams are usually a bit more conservative, not really going for crazy, heavy force buys. And then this is always that bonus round in round 3 where you maintain the Spectres. The other teams can go ahead and rifle up. Phantom obviously reigning supreme. Some teams have gone a little bit more Vandal heavy, but most of the top teams are still very much favoring that Phantom for the higher DPS. Also about being able to spam smokes without, tracers, kind of giving your position away. There's a lot of still reasons why you want to use that Phantom, but we're going to see a little bit of scrapping going on here for Showers control early. Envy do not want to give it up, though. They're playing 4 with Raze and company. Cage is up, though. It's allowing Dapper to kind of creep around his default position, being that lurker in the Showers with Cypher. He wins both the duels. He's getting so much control, and they're going to pounce on that.
Not slowing down, just picking up the pace. Sinatra on Phoenix with another one. And these Phantoms really just culling the defense. Now down to just the 2 of Crashy's joined alongside Food. Neither of them are looking too much in terms of going for a retake. Seems to me that they're looking more to get some exits and potentially let the Spike do the rest of the work for them and try and break down some of that economy before it can get built up on Sentinels.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bonus anyway, so you're kind of looking to see if you can get exits with these Spectres. That's where you can get the most value out of them at this point. Obviously, you wouldn't mind holding on to them if you had to. You don't want to just maybe completely charge in, but definitely just trying to post up for that. But no one really seems to be coming their direction. Seems like they're all exiting the way that which they came. And that's just, again, kind of an example of Sentinels. They themselves are a very explosive and I would say scrappy team. Like, they are not afraid to take early duels, not afraid to fight for early orb control. That's one of the trademarks of Sentinels, I think, is that they really prioritize getting that early orb on both sides of the map as much as they can, because they really like to charge their ults and get those involved, as much as possible. And they're very quick to follow up their picks. Again, a very scrappy team. We talked about how they have a lot of individual skilled, I think the most skilled lineup overall in NA. And they really like to flex that where they can. They like to go for the duels. They like to look for those early fights. You're going to see a lot of fast-paced rounds because Envy's the exact same way. These are 2 very, very aggressive teams that like to be explosive, and so you're going to see a lot of fireworks in these early round situations. We can see right now that there is going to be a bit of focus here from the Raze to bank off that boom bot and try to get control of this hookah.
Envy, though, in position to try and thwart this curveball around the wall of Blaze allows Phoenix to turn tail and run back into hookah again. It has been a hotbed of contestation, as you'd expect it to be, all the way through this first and indeed the second half. But things coming to a bit of a standstill now, Dust. It seems that both teams have agreed to sign a temporary ceasefire.
Yeah, I mean, what you saw Sick do there was like a very common boom bot bank shot off the wall to try to get hookah control, but we saw the Phoenix of Envy put the wall down and really try to deny that. But now we're seeing Sentinels reaggress this position. A quick trade of frags does put Sentinels ahead. They have now been able to stamp out a couple of members of Envy. Sova will reclaim that position at the very least, but now we're seeing engagements take place at A. And again, this is just that spread and scrappy style Sentinels like to implement with their individual players, just trying to pick fights, trying to take control all across the map. Dapper gets another big kill on the opposite end into Showers, and now the advantages are just mounting for Sentinels. They have virtually everything. The only thing that could go wrong is Crashy's on this push through. He actually gets the spike down towards attacking Spawn, and now things get interesting, Vince.
30
but
seconds
he's all
left.
alone. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. But 30 seconds. In comes Raze, and Sick has been picked off in midair. Crashies has already landed a flurry of frags. He got a 4K in a couple rounds ago. Maybe he can go in for another one. Recon bolt not required because Shazam puts the Phantom to use in the head of Crashies, and Sentinels just about escape. But as you said, Dust, incredibly close. That could have easily gone the way of Envy.
Yeah, I think you saw there a little bit of sloppiness from Sick on the Blast Pack. Again, he probably hasn't played that much Raze, particularly in Officials. I don't think he's ever played her at all on this map. Again, very much a Sage main. The only other agents I've really seen him go to are Breach and Phoenix, and that's actually still also very recent through these qualifiers. So maybe just a little bit of still trying to figure out the mechanics and master them, but it didn't wind up mattering. Shazam was able to get the follow up there, and basically, no harm, no foul when it's all said and done. We're going to see again that Huka control emphasis here early, and Sinatra will just sit in the fire and take the fight. That's what I'm talking about, Vince. He's such an X factor. You can never quite tell what type of wild card maneuver he's going to pull off, and he was willing to sit there and take that trade one-on-one.
You just know Food is sat there molding. He's like,
oh yeah,
push my Molotov. What are you doing? But a one-for-one trade and Hookah control is huge, and that's definitely worthwhile. They don't have a Sage to go for a res, of course, and it's early days anyway, but 1-for-1 will give the advantage to Sentinels, who have been on a bit of a hot streak. They won the last 2 rounds. Now the pressure mounting, not just in terms of round count, but also in terms of finances, as here comes the ultimate. Sick getting aggressive, getting up close and personal with Envy, but no one's home. However, carves a path and allows the spike to get planted.
Yeah, smoke going down now in the back hall to try to slow down this retake, which Envy wants to go for. They have the utility, they have the firepower, and they want to try to keep the score as close as possible, get back in the lead. Sick, though, going to draw a first blood there on the retake, and that forces Envy to back off. They knew now in a 2 versus 4, there was really no way back in. They needed that early exchange to go more favorably, and it's just not going to happen. And so they will back down. Sentinels will extend now to 3-2. So once the guns came out, Vince, it's really been the Sentinel show.
Oh, yeah. Where we see that individual ability level that you discussed pre-game really come to the forefront. Economically, Envy now can't be quite as frivolous. They will have enough to go for a buy. They could afford an operator, but it would put it down into a glass cannon territory for Food. Over 300 credits over the threshold, decides against it. Haven't had any operators early on here, and a Spectre in the hands of Caboose. Far from ideal, especially when you've just lost 3 in a row.
You can see Sentinels looking to really focus this time on getting into Hookah. They are not playing around. They have both duelists in that position. Even Cypher has left Showers. He left the Trapwire there, sure, but they're really looking to go fast-paced with this B split. This is a very common split to have where you're getting Hookah. You have Sova trying to help you get through long B, but now it's really just Cypher trying to hold the line. He does stop the ult there. The run it back has been taken care of without it getting any frags. It's getting a lot of information that Sova drone there from Crash. He's also confirming the amount of numbers towards Fountain. They know what they're up against.
I think Sentinels have a good idea as well, but it's a double stack on long, and there's a curveball into a fast peak, and it didn't really do anything for Envy. They have managed to push back the threat.
Yep.
Brim down below half HP with the spike under control, but now they look to make a move through on short side of A and try and hit the A site.
Yeah, they pulled a big rotation there. They had to respect that that was going to be a fast B split based on, Crashy's drone bonding all of them out towards the B fountain. So they've, rotated many of their personnel to B, but now the pressure on short A forces Phoenix and Sova to roll back through that defensive spawn. But now we see Sentinels looking to re-hit on B. So they've done a bit of a double fake, I guess you could say. There are capabilities for Phoenix to quick rotate through the portal, but it's going to be this 4-on-2 attack on B, and the defense is funneled towards Elbow. They have no presence inside Hookah or in the side itself, and they could easily get cordoned off.
Caboose has a perfect angle as well, and he has his teammate just to his left-hand side. Information gathered. Spike's been dropped down. 15 seconds. Just shy of it now. They need kills. They need to come right in. Oh, Caboose! That's some beautiful Spectre work. The weakened weapon that I even highlighted coming into this round was not like the others, but he still put it to use.
Yeah, Envy just doing a great job dealing with all the stress of the bouncing back and forth that Sentinels were doing there, putting that pressure in multiple areas. It really just came out to Zoms. He felt like he had to clear the corner, and it kind of opened up a great opportunity from the elbow position of Caboose to get that first kill on that take and call for the rotation and put a stop to that attack. Again, Sick also getting caught in midair there with Raze, trying to blast pack his way in. Shout out the sky like we were playing Duck Hunt, but now we're seeing, again, the aggression, but a great little counter there. The run it back is going to get folded.
He was so screwed. FNS, though, able to get one before dipping out. The orbital strike, and he knew he was a dead man, so threw the curveball out to try and help get a return kill. Paint shells go in. Mermaids have been absolutely battered by that, but somehow barely takes any damage. I thought that paint shell was going to destroy him.
And that's one of the powers of using Brim on this map, is his ult is so good in the portal and particularly on U-Haul when you're going for A attack. So even though Omen has been the favorite smoker of choice for pretty much everyone, Brim still has a lot of value on this map. And you saw it there clearing out that portal as now Sentinels have the man advantage with the 4-on-3 rolling in. Mummy still has control with his teammate here inside Hookah though. Crashy's delivering a nice little frag to even things back up. But the problem is, Vince, the whole retake is essentially focused from this direction. Back halls has been completely cleared by Sentinels. They have full control of that. Stands about to clear spawn, and so they're going to be able to just focus up and know that the amount of choke points they have to worry about are very limited. That's a big catch, though.
It's one-dimensional, but they also have the showstopper in the hands of Caboose. So this retake could very well come into play. They need a hero play. Dapper joined alongside Shazam, who's using that dark cover to his advantage. And now they've got to start to make moves in. Time ticking away. Ruba gives away one position, and now Crashies goes in for another one. Dapper with his back to the wall, gets one, runs out of ammunition, and there's Caboose. And enough time for the defuse on top of it. Or actually, does he? This is going to be really close. He may not have this, actually, after all. No, it goes down. They hold on. Sentinels take the rounds.
Oh, that was a roller coaster ride of a retake there. Again, like I said, the showstopper was in play, which always could be a big threat. Didn't even get used in that situation. I thought when Zoms got caught at Octagon, that was going to be a big problem for Envy's hold. But Dapper, you know, really was doing some big work with Cypher on the opposite end. When Envy were starting to get those kills, even though he didn't win the 1v2 battle per se, he bought so much time. He had perk information with his cam dart to kind of know how he needed to angle inside the side container, just to, you know, buy, again, as much time as he could to let the spike go off. No one had really gotten a tap onto it yet. They had to go for the full defuse, and Dapper was able to hang on there. So really well done, keeping this game, again, a very close contest. Again, an attempt at the boombot into Hookah. Doesn't work out, and Finesse actually catches the lurk inside Showers. That was Dapper, normally playing that position with Cypher. Of course, he is still very much a perma Cypher. Has not switched over to Killjoy as some of the other Sentinels players have. And when I mean Sentinels in that case, I don't mean the team, I mean the role in the game. It can get kind of confusing sometimes, Vince.
True. Yeah, absolutely. What we do know is the Sentinels are in command, albeit by a very thin thread. But when it comes to these full buys, yes, the team, absolutely.
Okay. We'll just go default. We're talking about the team all the way through. I think that's a great way to approach things. The tracking dart there will alert Envy's defense to raise its positioning there at short. So they know that it's likely going to be a focus here. And there's a showstopper from Caboose to slow them down. It does not get a frag, but it forces them backwards, and it allows the rest of the defense to get set up. As it was a bit of an eco here. For honest, a frenzy was used to open up things at Showers.
30 seconds left.
Still is going to need the Finesse.
This is where the Jaws should come clamping down and put an end to this round. Really, the only way that could have worked out for Envy is if that showstopper picked up a kill or two. Felt like it may have been shot a bit prematurely in the dark, blind on short, and didn't do any damage, let alone get any frags. However, two players have fallen for Sentinels, so maybe there is a way back in as Crashies takes a flashbang. And now he will be momentarily blinded. Here comes the other showstopper. Will we have any kills, though, from the ults? No. But it does fend off the Showers push for the time being. Now Crashies gets up close and personal. He's been the standout player on Envy so far in terms of frags, but there's not much he can do against Sinatra and a double on Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, what you're seeing Sentinels do here is they are just dominating the game since the rifles have come out. There's only been one true buy round won by Envy so far this half. The Sentinels offense has been just locked and loaded, as now we are seeing them put a little bit more emphasis here towards the A side. Raze will still be kind of used as, I guess you could say, like a slight aggro alert from Sick, who's kind of used to playing by himself. There's a lot of maps where he was playing Sage on attack, and he very much was a peripheral player on the opposite side of Dapper, who was using the Cypher to kind of play that type of role. So he used to be by himself, but you're seeing this focus up now. of Sinatra and company towards short. And basically, wherever you see Sinatra at early round, that's where the first fight's going.
That definitely seems to be the sequence of events, doesn't it? Not cover tossed in. It is another eco round. Envy not really applying themselves too much. Let's see Frenzy's picked up and some other assortments of weaponry. I think a couple of sheriffs are probably in play as well. Yep. But again, we said this before, Dust, as soon as the rifles, as soon as the main purchases started to come in thick and fast for Sentinels, it has by and large gone their way. 3 rounds to Envy, but 2 of them off the back of the pistol.
Yeah, and another round where Envy has low economy, they have to gamble here, and they have stacked over towards A based on that short A pressure they were receiving from the drone and from some of the shots that were being popped off there by Sinatra, but they have since now rotated into what is a very empty B site. And they're fully aware of that now as their Cypher is starting to clear out elbow. Ray's starting to come in as well. Caboose has rotated through back halts just in time to spot this, but cannot fit that sheriff shot through before the smoke blooms. It said Dapper's the one who dots the eyes there with the Phantom. Mummy able to respond and might be able to pick up a rifle there. Indeed does pick up a Phantom for himself, so maybe they can at least pose some threat, but looking pretty good for Sentinels. But as I say that, Mummy continues to do a lot of damage, forcing rebuys at the very least.
I know.
Oh my!
Another one. This actually could very well go the way of Envy. Not enough time has really elapsed to make this a surefire round for Sentinels. FNS with the next one. Sick needs to hold the line against 4. There's 2, picks up 3, and a 4th. Beautiful hold by Sick. A hero play that Sentinels desperately required. What a beautiful effort from Envy, though. Full on eco, and they nearly picked it up.
Yeah, Mummy was doing such great work there through elbow early to give his team a chance. I mean, they probably didn't really suspect that they would have a real way in that round until Mummy started breaking things open, found a Phantom for himself, and they were able to sweep through together on Hookah as well. There wasn't so much abilities left over for Sentinels to hold off in that retake situation. They were really having to rely on aim duels, and they got overwhelmed in a couple areas, if we're honest, but Sick, showing you why it's not just a Sinatra force, showing you why this team is stacked all the way down the lineup. Big quad kill play there in the heat of a, pretty pressured moment, despite that they had low firepower. Still, really able to pull off a big clutch. As we are going to see the drone leading up short here. Sentinels want to put the pressure towards U-Haul, and they will get the entry on Mummy.
Second follows it up. Neural theft tossed in. Enemies now revealed. And Dapper decides to keep pushing. Cage is put down, locking off any angles of re-engage. And Envy already tapping out, already giving up, but they will be running in to Shazam, who's put one of them down, is keeping their economy low and keeping their weapon count low on top of it. This has been excellent attacking from Sentinels, but they have lost Shazam finally, and that should afford the chance at maybe 2 players saving, albeit Caboose whiffing a bit of a spray. He gets punished, and Food continues to hold on desperately with the Phantom. But it's pretty sad that we have to get hyped over basically trying to save some weapons here, Dust, because the round itself, it's over. It's done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I mean, Food's definitely maybe going to find like a crazy bonus ace just to save a rifle, but it looks like Sick is not really going to contest. We'll just stick with the 4. But hey, at least carries over a rifle, but unfortunately, that's not really good enough. I mean, they're starting to fall really behind in rounds now on a map that, usually can be pretty defensive. But again, this will now be the 5th time that Envy has played Sentinels on Bind. Again, a different roster for Envy with Food and Crashes coming in for Calypso and Akis. But in the other 4 buy matches before today, Sentinels won all 4 of those games. And in 3 of the 4, they won without even allowing Envy double digits. And this game is on pace to be something similar. Unless Envy can start to respond. The problem is, Vince, their economy has been in tatters so often here in the middle of this hat. They have really not been able to get rolling. And this is another round where, yet again, they just don't have much to work with. They're trying to get aggressive, though, and they will indeed draw first blood. Food with a great second as well.
I think that must be the call. Like, just unleash Food, because he has been, alongside Crash, he's really the only player that has been dishing the damage and dishing the pain and suffering towards Sentinels. So just unleash him. Let him do what he does best. Go out there, get aggressive. You're playing a duel. Phoenix, Mummy,
so smart.
Catching Shazam. Very well played, but Sick backing him up. Make sure that he will not get a second. However, Envy maintaining the player advantage.
That was so well done. They knew that they had a mana advantage after Food traded 2 for 1, and they knew that that drone was going to find Mummy, so they said, screw it, I'm just going to push, and if I can at least go 1 for 1, that's a victory. I put my team in a 3 versus 2. I deny the drone, really having a whole lot of impact, other than an even trade, which isn't really the best value. And then I set my team up to hopefully coast to a victory. They already have a flank going on as well through B side, so they're going to get pinched on A on this retake. A great Hunter's Fury will slow down this spike from being planted with only about 35 seconds left to go. Sentinels will hold up in U-Haul with both players, but again, they're being pinched from the back side of short A.
30 seconds
and
left.
They cannot get the spike down, and they can't even get back to the teleporter without being caught.
That was the entire point of the Hunter's Fury, as you said. It stalled, and it's allowed this flank to come to fruition, but the spike still gets planted down. And now Sick, looking into heaven. Last man standing will be throwing some prayers in that direction. Here comes the showstopper. 1 kill forthcoming. Still retaining most of his hit points. Could still go in for this clutch. He's already picked up a 4K, and he could be on for another clutch, and indeed he will. Sick is unrelenting.
I mean, I'm kind of torn on that one, Vince, because on the one hand, I want to celebrate yet again Sick pulling off a crazy multi-flag clutch to close out a round, but then on the other hand, it's just a disappointment of somehow Envy throwing away a round that they should be winning time and time again based on positioning and how well they stalled that spike plant and the fact that they essentially had Sentinels just pinched inside U-Haul. I feel like they should be coming away with that 9 times out of 10, but that's the one that they don't get, and now it's piling on. There's only 1 round left to go and this happens, and they have not established themselves at all on this map.
Joke's over! You're dead!
They've constantly put in the dumps. They're going to try and get aggressive, hot and heavy through middle via hookah. They run it back. Has been shut down alongside Food. Crashies gets 3, pushing up in a bit of an off angle they've not used yet. And Mummy through the smoke onto Dapper, puts it down to Shazam. It would require yet another clutch to get Sentinels across the finish line for their 9th and the final round of the half, but he's been spotted. One of the first operators that we've seen in play does ring out, has already picked up 1 frag, nearly goes in for 2, and Shazam has a good idea as to this flank.
Yep,
being on the cards, and Finesse is waiting.
The trap bar was triggered, right? I don't know if he shot it or if he walked through it. Either way, Shazam knows that he's being flanked. That's a great use of the recon there. Steps out for the 1v1 against Finesse. He'll be able to get the spike back as well. And then he'll get a decision whether he wants to just keep pressing this 1v1. Great use of the Hunter's Fury. Not quite finding the mark. It's right around him. But he's at least setting himself up for a winnable 1v1. He does have the health advantage at least.
Thing is, he's against that operator. He's given his position away, and Mummy will not miss. And you have to feel that was a much-needed round for Envy to keep themselves in this. But just put your mind back, Dust. There were 3 or 4 rounds there that could have easily gone the way of Envy. This could even be a flipped-up score. If Sick doesn't get 2 clutches, the economic situation that puts Envy into, this could have been so much closer.
Yeah, I want to say, what, it was a 1v4 for Sick on that kind of 4-spy round, and then he had the 1v3 the second to last round. So, I mean, those 2 rounds were certainly pivotal. And obviously, again, their economy was a big factor. Never really had buying power on Envy's side through most of that game. And again, half their rounds were off a winning pistol. Because the second round's pretty much an instant guaranteed if you do get pistol. So, I mean, yeah, they won pistol, great. But after that, not a whole lot. And that's really just not good enough for buying defense, in my opinion. Especially because Sentinels, with so much skill and such a great comp, they're not really going to give Envy a whole lot. It's going to come down to, again, whether or not Envy can implement their normal game plan. They are a very explosive team. They like to just gather and do set pieces and play assertive. It's Finesse style from Counter-Strike rolled over into this game. And they're very effective at it, Vince, but Sentinels are so skilled, they might be able to stop it.
Maybe joined by some classics. Brim able to smoke off short. Tom's making sure that he stays alive as long as possible, anticipating that shock dart could come in and bypasses it entirely. Sick now, paint shell in hand, waiting to hear some information so he can toss it in towards short if he does get pushed. And it seems like Envy had the right reads, but they're a little bit too slow on the approach, and now they've been spotted. There's the paint shell, and you can see the impact it's had onto Cypher, already dropping down to 47 HP for Finesse, and that will certainly give them second thoughts about pushing anytime soon.
Yeah, they've been battered back here, just kind of playing back on short A. They do have Race taking control of Showers. They do have their Phoenix kind of just watching their flank. That's going to be Caboose trying to take a little bit of space here while Food just kind of watches their back. Now we'll join with them. They're looking to come up short A. They have Sinatra, though, to worry about, who still has a couple of curveballs left and has that automatic frenzy. And he's got Sick for the bait and switch. Ooh, they jump past it, though. That's a big entry, and they will follow up nicely. 2 other ones pop in quick, and now that spike is going down. 2-man advantage for Envy on this retake.
Spike planted.
And neither are Sentinels in close enough proximity to deny the spike from getting planted, so it will be post-plant. They have a ghost in the hands of Shazam. Doesn't have a great deal of utility at his disposal either, and a frenzy for Dapper. Same could be said. So it's going to have to be a pretty raw retake in a 2v4. We spoke about their individual skill. Well, now's the time to highlight it and showcase what you have. Ness goes in for the peek, staying alive with his ghost. He was the player that was tagged very early on. Shazam spins around for the headshot. And it's the last thing he will do in this round, and a very important one for Envy. They've picked up both pistols.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly one thing in their favor, that at least they get themselves started each half. But again, it's going to come down to the real test, which is those rifle rounds, and whether or not they can establish their very, fast B split or short A attack heavy style. And again, very much like to play fast paced, just like Sentinels did. They're not quite as scrappy or loose. I feel like they entry a little bit tighter with their Raze and their Phoenix being a little bit more coordinated. Not to say that Sentinels are sloppy or anything. I just feel like they're a little bit more willing to play individually and kind of, just play off of intuition. Whereas Envy kind of have these more drilled set pieces. But it's all about whether or not Sentinels allow them to play that game plan. Sentinels could easily play an aggressive defense and disrupt them before they can get executes rolling. Or they can just, use their skill to just, turtle in the sights and still win out the trades. So that's going to be what we have to watch out for going forward, in my opinion.
Bulldog snatching him to the arm, forcing the hot hands to come out just to heal. From Shazam's perspective, or Sinatra's perspective, I should say, who's now lining up a curveball, anticipating that hookah push is incoming, is imminent any second now. Paint shell lined up for the long play. Right idea. 3 players there on Envy. And now the paint shell gets tossed out. How much damage, if any, comes down? Not really anything to speak of, and it feels like that was their win condition. It's gone awry. Now they need the right click of the classic to come good and spray some bullets into heads, but instead it will be a 2v5. It will be a post-plant. It will be a retake. And honestly, Dust, I just can't see anything happening now for Sentinels. They don't have the weaponry, they don't have the manpower, and they are being splattered right now. Dapper's the only player that's came back with one. He's only really looking for some exit frags, and that's it.
Yeah, again, just one of those kind of easy cleanup rounds, especially whenever they got that paranoia to hit the container so well. Even though there was some defense in place there from Sentinels, the inferior firepower and the good use of abilities from Envy to isolate angles and, basically put people out of the fight. I think that was ultimately what led to a pretty easy victory. And that's exactly what Envy needed to get back into the game, if we're honest, Vince. I mean, Sentinels were really building up a massive lead, getting 8 attacking rounds, only allowing 2 rifle rounds out of Envy. If they could have won pistol, if they could have gotten something early going, it might have just stopped Envy from getting involved in this game at all. Now, at least they can, have their full credits. They can, look to buy up where they want and implement whatever strategy they feel is their best chance. Because it looks like they want to emphasize getting showers control a bit earlier, as they do have food in that position with Raze. So it seems like they want to be going for an A split. They're not a team that does a lot of double faking. They like to just kind of control, come together, and then pounce. And so I imagine it's not going to be too long before you see them knocking on the door to the safe side.
Good counter utility tossed in. Smoke onto short. Keeps Envy at arm's reach. But Caboose taking point, looking through in showers. Joined alongside Shazam, or Food, pardon me. Zoom's also waiting in the wings. Some good positions being maintained from Sentinels, but as soon as those smokes start to clear and fade, expect Envy to get really aggressive, and here it comes. Dark cover tossed in, run it back straight away through on showers, and Food instantly gets nullified. His ult gets cancelled, but so does Dapper. By the hands of Caboose, who's looking for more, but he runs into Sick, who's on form already with 2 big clutches to his name. He's holding the lines devastatingly well. Sinatra now dips in for another one, and it puts not for much longer. Sentinels will lead 9-6.
Again, I think Sentinels are just doing a good job, as I was kind of talking about before, just, playing back in the site and forcing Envy to push all the way. Yeah, they might be allowing Envy to get aggressive kind of in those initial choke points and take that initial space, but they feel confident they can just kind of hold their 3-2 setup across the map and then just kind of force Envy to go in, and then they can just play off of each other. And I think that it was huge that they limited Food from getting really anything done with that run it back. Yeah, he got a little information, maybe a little bit of damage, but no entry frag. And then that slows him down once he has to wait and go back to his body to be able to come in and follow up with the rest of his team. So I feel like, that was just well managed from Sentinels through and through, despite some early map control taken from Envy. And it looks like they're trying to go for something similar here in this round, that they do have Finesse being a little bit more assertive towards Hookah, kind of being that solo man, that position. trying to keep them interested, which there is indeed a double hookah defense set up here from Sentinels, as Food does use the boom bot of his teammate there to get some control of showers and get control of that orb if they so choose to pick it up. Indeed they will. It's going to get the showstopper for Caboose.
Could be key as well, Dust. With a lack of weaponry, could be posting up behind a showstopper to get a kill, pick up a weapon and try and do something with it. Owl drone tossed in. They look for information, try and gather the intel. They have just spotted Dapper momentarily before the Owl came to its demise. Now the recon behind it. Here comes the showstopper. They had the right idea, but the wrong side. Dapper's not fallen, and it feels like that was their only hope coming into this round. Now things starting to close down. Authority really comes in with a bulldog. It's the first fire that claims the first kill, but now the Hunter's Fury spotting Crashies, finishes him off, and Shazam gets a 3K.
Again, it's kind of a repeat of last round. They're getting a good bit of map control. They're even got a good amount of information with that Owl drone, but again, another ult basically gets stuffed, just like last round where we were unable to see Food get much with the, run it back. We didn't really see the showstopper of Caboose have any impact there. You kind of want that to be the trigger. You want that to be kind of the entry that gets the dominoes falling, and it hasn't happened. Sentinel's done a good job limiting those ults' impact. I mean, that's just straight and simple. And now Envy have even less to work with here. Just a couple of Sheriffs to Frenzy on Finesse. It's looking like Sentinels are about to skate away with this game. Yet again, this will be the 5th time that they have beaten Envy on this map. All 5 times that they've played, they've won. If this continues on, and this will be yet the 4th time of the 5 that they don't allow Envy double digits. It's just dominance. But we'll see if Envy can try to change history a bit here. This round, going to be a tough ask with the limited firepower.
A very difficult situation, but one that they must get on top of, guys. If they were to concede this, they're only a couple steps away from defeat, so a lot of pressure mounting on Envy.
Sentinel's getting aggressive there on long B, controlling Fountain, getting intel, that everyone's shuffling back over to A sides, allowing Zoms to rotate through spawn. They have the others on the way as well. They have their Phoenix on the flank. Dapper has a good cam set up as well to keep tabs on short, so Sentinels have basically everything covered. It's just about winning the duels now.
Info gathered. Spy cam working out. Sentinel, orbital strike behind it. And out come Envy into the slaughter. Showstopper picked up. Actual in. 2 kills to 6. That's how you get it done. Now Crashies with the Sheriff. Has to try and stand tall, and he is delivering in spades. There's 2 kills with the Sheriff. Dispatching of Sentinels. It all comes down to a one-on-one. Crashies with 61 HP up against Sinatra. Looking into Lamps. Has no idea that Crashies is taking a very different angle of approach. And Crashies puts the bullet in the head of Sinatra. We said how important this round was, and Envy have got it done.
Yeah, they finally are able to have some good, solid trading, and it happened around. You didn't really even expect it to. Huge for Envy. Sentinels were about to run away with this map, but that gets them right back in the fight. Just a few rounds behind now. They get their first gun round early. The problem is the economic reset could be massive. Really, both teams' economies are fragile, Vince, and that could be a bigger problem for Envy than Sentinels, who have a little bit of cushion to work with. As we're going to see Envy start to shift focus this time, Vince, a lot more heavy on the B side. Just Finesse kind of lurking short A to try to make sure that no flanks are coming or any aggressive pushes happen on that side.
Take flight.
Intel being gathered. Shazam peeking out, spots the Roomba coming towards him, shuts it down. No real problems. But the issue starting to come to a head is that he spotted multiple players pushing up long, and they have a good idea as to what's coming up. Sinatra now protruding around the corner, shutting down Mummy, expecting a second player to push, so throws in Hot Hands. That stalls the play, and Blaze behind it. Very well done by Sentinels to shut down this play, and it all comes off the back of that early information they gathered with the recon. And now Sid can do the rest. He's been tagged down, but still standing, allowing them to pivot off something. Stands his ground for another kill. And it's Caboose that's sent reeling out of the round. Right idea with the play, but now Cratching stepping up to the table. Delivers him with 2 of his own before he gets paint shelled out of existence. And now
30 seconds left.
Try and make some moves. They push into him, but there's the wall bang from Dapper. They just about hold the line.
Yeah, that was a bit scary. They actually gave Finesse a little bit of a chance there at the end. They were a little bit antsy on how they pushed Phoenix through there when they had a good crossfire established at the portal. I thought maybe they were gonna just get a little bit too overeager there, but it wound up working out just fine. As Sig has had a hell of a performance. He's up to near 25 frags on the map. He is far and above everyone else. No one else has really even been required. Six has had so many individual plays. Talk about the 2 clutches in the first half, the 1v3 and the 1v4. He's had a couple of huge holds as well in this half. He has just been on fire.
Cage triggered.
No doubt at all. Envy have not been able to handle that heat at all. And now they fall further and further behind. Familiar territory as well, Dust. We have sheriffs, we have some upgraded pistols, and that's basically it. And on the brink of defeat.
Talked about it last round, Vince. The economic reset was always going to be a huge threat if they took a loss, and they did, and now they have to suffer the repercussions, as that was a big problem for them in the first half as well. The economic management of Sentinels and how they've controlled this game through and through has just set them up the coast to perhaps a quick victory. And Zoms will hold the line there at Showers, denying Finesse any room or real information in that direction. Crashies will drone his way in to try to clear some angles and help his team see if they can't either press forward or maybe even create a bit of a fake, you know, get into U-Haul, force some rotations, and try to double back on B, which seems to be the case here as NVR pivoting that direction, but Food's already been caught towards Octagon. So that idea has basically been halted.
Shazam with another clean pick.
30 seconds left.
Away, upgrades to a sheriff. Also denies that from Mummy, who would love that one-tap ability to come into play. 20 seconds. He knows Shazam is up close, but still comes out second best. And Shazam will be nullified by Crashies, who vanquishes him away. Will not be padding his stats anymore. There's his second. These are clean, crisp headshots that are coming out from Crashies, but he knows his days are numbered. The time doesn't work for him. He just has to try and hold on to the Vandal. That will be map points, and 5 of them in total to Sentinels. All the pressure now mounting and swelling, and it may be hemorrhaging out of control.
Yeah, have to win 5 in a row to force an overtime here. At least they will be able to afford all that they could really hope for. Again, a team that prides itself on using their abilities to play that fast, assertive style, whether it's the quick B splits with hookah control or, you know, ripping up short A. They've really been slowed down, much more so than you often see. I feel like Envy usually gets to kind of roll out their more aggressive game plans and are very successful with it. That's why they're one of the best teams in the region. But when it comes to them playing against a team like Sentinels, they just are kind of run their head up against a brick wall playing that way, I feel like. And they're trying to adapt and take things a bit more cautiously, but that has also faltered.
Food finally getting some success. I was about to say he's had a very slow attack side after being pretty damn good on the defense. Sick 24 kills, now moves to a 25th.
Ooh.
With 2 massive clutches in amongst that. But a real chance for Envy to maybe bring this back a bit closer.
I don't know. Six doing a really good job with his utility, slowing everything down to buy time for rotation. Uses that boom bot to perfection to find the advantage duel against Crashies, which keeps it at an even 3-on-3 on this retake. Now the showstopper appears as well, and this could be trouble for Envy.
Second satchel tossed in, taking down Mummy, but Food in midair shuts down Stick. Flashes are on point, and Sentinels have a chance at this 2-on-2. Caboose hiding, praying that Food can stay alive a little bit longer. All he has to do is show a little bit of presence, and that should be good enough. Spraying through, takes down one, but Sinatra using that blaze, devastating effect, and flicks across, but Caboose holds on for dear life, as will Envy. 4 map points.
Wow, that was close, though, for honest, Vince. I mean, Sick with yet another hat trick round. He's had so many multi-frag moments in this series, or rather map, I suppose. Could be for the series. We'll have to find out a little bit later, but it looked like he might reel that one back, and he certainly gave his team a chance, but Envy were able to hold on that time. The thing is, they've never been able to string together 5 rounds in a row, and now they have to string together 4 more to get to OT. Caboose setting up the boom bot to try to get that early hookah control, at least information on whether a defense is set up there up close. There's going to be a big short A push as well coming from Sentinels. This is going to be something special.
Special, but they're walking into Mummy, who seemed to have a good idea what was coming up. However, traded out, neural theft tossed in, information gathered across the map. They have picked the spike back up again. That could have been a horror story had they not maintained control of the spike, but they managed to dip out.
Yeah, that was so well done by Sentinels. I mean, they know they had a couple players on just pistols. They only had limited rifles, and they wanted to get the most out of them, and using that neural theft early was a great way to make sure that you could do, early positioning. They trade 1-for-1 up short. They're able to get one more rifle in their hands. Food's been caught there. Sick catching on the crashies. The flank is coming in through short A now from Sick. Trying to go for yet another multi-frag round. This time he's silenced by Food, but it's still an even 3-on-3, and Sentinels know exactly what they're up against and where everyone's located. Dapper was spotted there in the corner, but he's going to be able to draw back into sight no problem. This is going to cause Envy to want to pivot back over to B side. Though they're not committing to that just yet. Phoenix was just kind of checking things out in that hallway, but the spike remains towards short. They do still perhaps want to look towards attacking this A site, as Dapper will be the solo defender, at least for now. So this is good for Envy. They have a good man advantage here. Rotation's a little bit off. Big kill, though.
Massive from Dapper. Allows him to set up the spy cam. Here comes the showstopper. Getting aggressive. Caboose forcing them back.
10 seconds
buying
left.
up enough time for the spike plant.
Spike
With
planted.
2-on-3. Still utility afforded across the Sentinels. Shazam about to push in with Dapper. Through from the attack side of things. And now Caboose holding it there. Do have a crossfire down. They can cover each other's angles. Food with the first. Curveball is good. Stalling a bit more. And now Sinatra comes in, but he can only get one. Excellent hold. Envy still survives. Still push forwards.
Yeah, they are climbing back into this. That was a really well done post plant there with that crossfire established over towards the back in that corner by Showers, as well as having, a player towards U-Haul. Despite Dapper getting a really big frag and setting up his team for perhaps a solid retake opportunity, Envy were able to clamp down. You're starting to see them come alive a bit in these last couple of rounds. They are not going out with a whimper, as once again they want to get that boombot into hookah and at least get early information, if not control. But it's again going to be that double Sentinels defense in that area. So boombot will make its way in. It's going to get shot up, so now he knows at least one player is there. Sick maybe going to counter with one of his own, but holds on for now. Big dart there from Shazam. He knows he's got him trapped. He's going to put a shock dart in as well. Doesn't really get the damage off he was hoping for, but at least get some intel, as we are going to see Envy looking for that fast B split most likely.
Boombot finding information. Finesse shuts it down. We have seen this angle used multiple times already. With the spy cam coming in, they're going to have a good idea as to what's coming up. Dark cover, Paranoia also tossed in, trying to screw with as much vision as possible, but it's Caboose's paint shell that claims the first blood in this round. And with the second following it right away from Mummy, who rips in for 2, it seems like Envy will be successful again. It comes down to a 2-on-5. And a post plant comes in. Sentinels probably just have to save.
Yeah, Envy did a great job breaking up that hookah defense. They got both frags in that room, which can be a very, tough egg to crack, especially because when that boombot goes out from Sick, I mean, he knew that there was 2 out there. He heard both guns fire whenever they had to destroy his boombot. So, I mean, they had a pretty good idea. Shazam even was able to get the recon towards long and spotted one in the corner. So they knew exactly what was going on. And they were starting to shuffle their positions just fine, but their entire defense folds, and they only got 1 frag to speak for it. And that happened just now, and basically the saving situation. So, very dominant round from Envy. I think it's like the cleanest round we've seen from them basically all game long. I mean, yeah, they've been mounting a comeback for some time, but I feel like that was the decisive when they needed to really fuel the full comeback effort, to really put the threat of overtime into Sentinels. Now they're starting to sweat a little bit, you'd imagine.
Oh, yeah. You better believe it.
This is a nice spot.
It was what, 12-7 at one point?
Yes.
And now 2 rounds shy, and look at that buy. Thing is, Frenzy.
This should do.
Couple of save guns in the mix, of course, but just a ghost. It's looking pretty grim. Looks like we will go the distance, barring a miracle play. And Sentinels, off the back of that desperation, may very well go for some aggression. We know they have it up their sleeve. We know they can pull these plays off. And so Dapper taking the initiative, going up short, getting up close, alongside Sentinels on long, stacking the bulk of their defense over on B, anticipating a play is forthcoming, and it will start to make a move up alongside. They look for the information. Flashes are good, but Sick does get counted instantly from the shock dart, even though he got the paint shield kill. So it's a 1-for-1, and under normal circumstances, you'd probably say that favors Envy, but with the lack of weaponry, maybe Sentinels do have a chance.
They do, and they're calling for an early rotation already here from Zoms because they saw so many towards long B. They have a bit of a crossfire established here with Sinatraa under the window and one towards elbow. It's going to be Shazam here, getting some bullets in, putting the recon bolt down, trying to set up his teammates to come out and thrive, and Shazam now on his own with the Frenzy coming in for damage. He gets a little bit off. Zoms finds a couple, and now it's a 1v2. It's winnable for Dapper. He's got the Phantom, and one of his opponents are low on health.
I can't toss out, but it has been smoked off. Can't see anything. Spray up through the cage, nearly yielding damage, but no frags. Napper gets the first. You don't want to peek him one by one. He'll punish you, but Mommy with the Vandal has really come alive these last few rounds.
I thought Dapper might get the flick there. His crosshair was real close to the face of his opponent, but Envy do indeed thrive and was essentially an anti-eco. Sentinels obviously trying to make sure that they could put their best foot forward in the final round of regulation. Vince, let's be real. For those of you out there who know us, we're no strangers to commentating overtimes, and what a great set of teams to do it with if indeed Envy can push. It'll be the first time they've ever gotten this many rounds on Sentinels on this map with their core.
Oh yeah, I'm down for much more rounds. I'm totally down for that. Better believe Sentinels. They'll be molding if it gets to that point, but they have a chance to shut it down. Yeah. It's been close. They could have put this to bed. And keep in mind that 2 of Envy's rounds, and subsequently they did convert the bulk of them, did come off the back of pistols.
Sure.
So in terms of rifles, you still give the slight favor to Sentinels, but the momentum of this game, Dust, has been shimmering across to the Envy side.
Yeah, I feel like Sentinels, like, you know, aggressive posturing and hookah has often failed them. They haven't really been able to get much out of that. We're seeing Envy, again, be able to play their assertive style, manipulate the rotations of Sentinels quite well. As we are seeing Envy being able to get control of showers, being able to get the orb. Crashy's now 1 away from having the Hunter's Fury. So he will send his drone out there through. It's going to spot Zoms and dart him.
Joke's over! You're dead! Joke's over! You're dead!
Oh, both run it back to them pops. An orbital strike on top of it will completely nullify Food's push. Good counter utility tossed in to Sentinels. Mollies, cages, everything you can ask for. 30 seconds to go.
30 seconds
Envy
left.
have to push. They're moving on the B side, which is the weaker of the two. There's a showstopper up against them. Will there be any kills forthcoming? Sick misses his chance. And with that missed, that could be all she wrote for regulation. We could be headed to overtime yet. But Shazam holding the line, holding his reserve, holding the bullets, and trying to put them to the faces of Envy as they push in. And there's the second. Not quite a third forthcoming, but Sinatraa elsewhere doing damage. Food now stepping up, dispatching with haste, and there is the Hunter's Fury coming into play. Will this yield any kills? No, he cancelled it after the first time of asking, and now shows his hand. 1v1, Crashies up against Brim, but Zomes only has 1 HP to his name. A bullet anywhere on his person, and this is headed to overtime. Crashies has the position, he has everything going in his way, and a 3k to boot. It's OT.
Exactly what you want to see in a winners match between 2 of the top teams in the region, a map that Sentinels have been dominant on in the head-to-head history against their opponents in Envy, but now Envy with the new lineup looking to make things look a bit differently, and by forcing OT, they certainly have. In fact, when I look back, I don't know that these teams have ever actually played each other in an overtime match. I think most of the games have been one-sided victories for Sentinels. Again, I think only a handful of times have Envy even been able to post up double digits in losses against this team. I think actually just one of their losses with double digits. Everything else was either a blowout or they had 2 map victories out of the 14 they had played previous to now. So this is definitely a little bit of a difference in, you know, what each team is feeling of their opponent. It's definitely made things a lot more tense and with a lot on the line, Vince. Again, winner this moves on to playoffs without having to play the decider to get into that first strike tournament with those prestigious events that have been set up in Valorant thus far.
Extra pressure because let's be honest, who wasn't expecting Sentinels to make it there?
Yeah.
You know, now they're on the brink of potentially being knocked down in the first map. Sure, it's a best of 3. It's not like they're out or anything. But they had a vast lead. 12-7. That's great context. 41-8. How Sentinels fare coming into this game. 41 wins, 8 losses. 84% win rate. And they are struggling. They've lost the first player in overtime.
Indeed, they have. Envy have really gotten the momentum here. They had a great last round regulation on their attack, just kind of bouncing back and forth, burning abilities, and then focusing up together as a unit on the attack. And it's happening again on the defense here, though they are a bit out of position. They are getting a rotation now, though, through spawn, and Caboose is holding on to buy that time. Zombs eventually will trade, but now Envy are able to get everyone ready for the retake, and they have man advantage.
Spike planted.
Shot covering the close angles as they look to push through elbow. Food still has a bit of utility. Hot hands tossed out. Here comes the dark cover, but it has been instantly returned in from a brimstone smoke and the blaze. The wall put down from Phoenix. This is such a difficult site to retake at this point. They're going to have to wait quite a bit of time before all of this clears away. Recon bolt behind it. Information gathered. Spycam also put in position. Shazam up close. Will falter, stumble, and get back down from Mummy. And Finesse comes in for another one. And Zombs, who tries to go through the cage, has been tethered, has been tattered, and Envy take the lead.
Indeed, they have. What a great retake. And now it came really just down the spacing and trading and flexing their man advantage. Yes, there was a lot of these abilities that Sentinels were putting down to slow down the retake, to burn cloth, to get the spike more time to set in, but Envy kept their wits about them and then walked in together, traded so well, took advantage of that early pick and never let it go. And now they might get themselves a victory over Sentinels on bind for the first time. And again, start rewriting some history. This team has never beaten Sentinels in a best of 3. Again, different roster, that has to be said. But Sentinels have enjoyed success against this Envy core so often, and we are getting a complete flip to the script so far here on this comeback effort. But will it hold? Can Envy make this attack work? That's a great shock dart onto Sinatra, but of course he has the option to heal a little bit later.
Does have the option, but it means you'd use to have hot hands defensively as opposed to aggressively, and we know that aggression is in his nature, it's in his blood. The Envy on the brink, the map pick of Sentinels here on Bind, and they are on the receiving end of a battering. The last 6 rounds in a row have gone the way of Envy. To put it in context, they were miles ahead of their counterparts, and then Envy just woke up. Mummy in particular has been the spearhead on the Omen, playing so well. 50 seconds. Envy still need to push in. This is going to be very one-dimensional. All 5 of their players moving out through alongside. This tactical tossed in allows Caboose to post up in a different angle, but Kappa's up to the task, and it seems like Sentinel, they're not done just yet, Dust. They want to stay in this. They want to prove that they picked this map for a reason.
Indeed, they do hold on there. Like you said, Envy were on quite the winning streak to push this into overtime, but Sentinels are not ready to lay down arms just yet. That was a very bold B defense there. They absolutely dominated that round. There was not much success at all there from Envy, who are still trying to fuel this run of quite the comeback if it were to reach the finish line. So we are going to see them switch sides yet again. Envy back on the defense. Sentinels, of course, had a huge attacking side. An attacking favor for both these teams throughout regulation.
They found my wire.
We are going to see the constant scrapping of Showers control breaking out here early with both cams being deployed. Finesse, though, will be able to get position in the corner here and deny orb to Sentinels, who love to get those orbs early. They are one of those teams that really like to fight for that, and they've been denied that option. Granted, in OT, it's not quite as important, but still denying that map control at the very least, as we now see Sentinels pivot, likely going for a B split here. Oh, this is great. They're actually pushing short A on the Envy side. They might figure this out pretty early. Indeed, the drone will detect a couple long B.
Indeed, and that's a dart that also has to be picked out of Sentinels, which wastes more time, allows the dark cover to come into fruition, stalling even longer. Caboose has a good angle to just spray straight through, but Sinatra pushes through the smoke, takes off the head, with Food now spraying in with the Phantom, running out of ammunition, needs to relocate, but as he's caught in the reload animation, he gets punished and pivots out. Will be a post-plant coming in, with Shazam getting the spike down. But Envy in close enough proximity, actually, Finesse is on the other side of the world. He needs to get close to his teammates. They need to push together. If they go one by one, Sentinels more than likely will be victorious, and they're also making sure that their defense won't be one-dimensional. They have their Cypher pushing round to get into hookah. Revealing area is Shazam. That will give him a bit of valuable information that 2 of them are coming from CT side. And now with a smoke, the dark cover gets tossed into hookah. In comes the push. Envy desperately required this. Lots of damage comes down, but it's Rashi's that get the first. Shazam holds in for one, and our Dapper's position has gone completely unchecked. Last round. But I don't think they have time. It's going to be incredibly close again. And they wasted too much time. And I go back to what I said before, Dust. Finesse was so slow to rotate.
Switching sides.
Yeah, he was a little bit concerned, of course, on this map, but the portals at the way that he worked, he thought that maybe they might pivot and port back through Long B after putting that initial pressure, but they did not. Sinatra just showing you great use of Phoenix there, putting that wall down, the block off vision from elbow, but then he also stepped out from the opposite side of what his opponent was expecting to take the straight up duel and won that fight and really just kickstarted a great execute. And that's going to allow Sentinels to jump up one round here as they go back to defense, one round away from taking the 1-0 in this series to kick things off here in this winner's final. So again, we are going to see an early scrap for Shower. Zom's going to try to hold the line, stops that Bolt from getting any intel, trying to hold down on that smoke. He will get one. Food will trade it back, however. One orb away from a run it back.
Really see he was battling against the recoil and Showers there. Zoms, and fortunately for Sentinels, he did get one, but as you say, run it back now available. Envy can have two cracks at it on their approach. Still a minute to play with.
I think he still needs one more, I believe. One more orb. So don't know who it could put use this time or not. I'm not sure if the orb at Long B got taken yet. So that could be an option, though, if they're able to actually push off Octagon and start working their way up, as they do have hookah control. Mummy about to lay down some smoke. Speed's definitely going to be the target. And honestly, Sentinels have no idea. They haven't even begun to rotate. They're not sure what they're up against quite yet. There's the orb being picked up. Now the run it back is going to be in play.
Joke indeed is over. But it could be Sentinels that have the last laugh. Kabusto goes in with the first. It's Sinatra that goes down to his hands.
30 seconds left.
Mike is being planted and Caboose is wrapped around the back. Shazam had no idea that was a possibility. And Sick, who's been a bit quiet in overtime, now starting to get more. Envy looked like they could be in with a shot, but now Sick is stepping back up again. How many clutches has he had in this game already? But he has no idea. That's to finesse his position, and like a coiled viper, he strikes. We go again.
This is just turning into an absolute slugfest. All logic starts to go as these teams are just looking to pounce on one another. Just two brawlers exchanging jabs and hooks left and right. These rounds have been so tense. So many, late round 3-on-3 just trade fest. And now Sentinels back on the attack. Again, the favored side for both these teams thus far in this particular match. And I just don't know what is going to be what changes things. What's going to be the final nail in the coffin for one of these teams? It's hard to say based on how these rounds have played out. It seems as though when the attacking team, as what these teams like to play aggressive, when they're able to get that early map control and set up, they do wonders. But when those aggressive defenses come into play where they start, putting in backstabs, they start denying space early, that's when it seems like the offense has struggled a bit. So I'm kind of curious if that's what it's going to take, an aggressive defensive play, if that's going to be what finally changes things. Or can someone just hold? Can someone pull off a clutch? There's so many ways to win here, but no one's quite figured it out.
Sure, with so much on the line as well. One of these teams have the courage to play aggressively on defense, knowing that if it backfires, you basically just give away a round.
Exactly. That is the tough call to make in those situations. It is definitely a risky way to go. A couple of different players on these teams, though, do like to do it at times, but do you do it now? As that it's a big entry from Sinatra. A great counter paranoia, though, from Mummy will slow them down at least a bit, but now you see Sinatra just full force plowing into U-Haul, but Mummy continues to hold his ground. He's doing so very well.
He's been a beast in these overtimes, and he goes in for another one. Culling down Sentinels, sure it's a post-plant, but it's a player behind, and Mummy wants more. He gets more. It's 3 kills to his name, putting it down to just 1. It's Dapper, and the spray's off. He gets punished. Envy move around ahead again. More than enough time for the defuse.
Oh, yeah.
Sentinels in trouble again.
Honestly, this is the most dominant defensive round we've seen in a really long time from either team. I mean, that was clean from Envy. They really shut down that short A attack. Even though the spike went down, they maintained their numbers all the way through. That's a Mummy. Again, not a guy who played a lot of Omen in the past. He was pretty much a pure jet op. But with, Food and Crashes coming on to the team, he's had to kind of split time with Omen with Food depending on the map. This is one of the maps where he does indeed play the Omen. And he had a great use of the paranoia down to slow down Sinatra and really just kind of roll off a great defense. Everyone's really contributing well here for Envy. which is nice to see. And now they have map point ahead of them. Can they end it here and now? Or will Sentinels force yet another overtime in what's already been quite a marathon of a first map?
And there's plenty more to go. Zombs gets the first, and he will successfully, safely back out of showers. You're now getting aggressed on short. Paint shell there to greet the oncoming Envy players, and they will take quite a bit of damage.
I have to say this, even though Zombs had a pretty slow game, and he's usually one of the weaker players on Sentinels when it comes just to pure fragging, he's done a really great job shutting down showers at times against Envy and giving his team either a man advantage or at least like an even situation with good information. And that was another big play there from him. It keeps Sentinels very much in their race to force another OT here, but Envy looking to follow up with who they have left. They put the wall down to kind of focus here on U-Haul and get Mummy in position on the site. Ray's coming in now as well. It's going to be Caboose really making sure that U-Haul is clear. Finesse gets a kill, but Sentinels will respond right back to two of their own.
One enemy remaining.
They overstep the mark. They get punished. A bit of aggression, but it's a little bit repressed in nature.
Oh!
Caboose takes the shot and dips out of there. The fadeaway while going through the teleporter. He has at least
30
survived a
seconds
little bit longer. He doesn't want to force the plant down. He's waiting for Jean to go for a bit of a peek, but until Shazam hears the spike get planted, there's no reason for him to move in. He also heard the teleporter, Caboose. He knows one player's coming behind him. Now he's spotted him in hookah. 15 seconds. Sentinels know they do not have to face him. They know time itself has become an extra player that they can build behind.
10
Caboose
seconds
fakes
left.
it. He's waiting for the push. That's so well played from Sentinels. So disciplined, so passive, and it yields massively for them.
Yeah, again, it starts with
Switching
Zombs
sides.
denying showers control, and then
Overtime.
it gets followed up by just some good playing inside the center of the site from Sentinels. Those two kills they got in the middle of the A site that forced Caboose into a 1v2 was just fantastic, and then how disciplined they were in the 2v1 there, also huge in the pressure moment to just realize that the clock was their friend and play off of that, and now it's back even here. Both teams now starting to get a little bit of something going on the defense now each way. Things are truly up in the air at this point, Vince. It's so hard to tell where this is headed. We just get to sit back and enjoy the ride rather than trying to make any assumptions, I suppose.
Oh, that's perfect curveball. Sinatra goes in for another one. They mix up the pace, they get aggressive, and they get into the faces of Envy. Envy cannot withstand the storm. They have been submerged post-plant. Sentinels very likely to take another map point.
Oh yeah, there's no chance at Envy retaken here. Sentinels have just been trampling all over the B site, and they're allowing no room back to Envy. Mummy able to get one, sure, but the hill he must climb to do anything else is too steep. As that was now one of the most dominant attacking rounds we've seen in quite some time. Only one
Switching
player lost for
sides.
Sentinels there, and that's Prime
Match
Sinatra.
point.
Just flying through the site with Phoenix. Something he's so good at doing on this particular map. That's, I feel like, what Sentinels needed. They needed their X Factor to come back alive again, and Sinatra was up to the task that round. Not that he's played poorly by any means, but that was one of his biggest moments of the game. And that could be one of the deciding factors of how this thing ends.
It's always interesting when a game goes on for this long, you have these ebbs and flows with players hitting form and then having their lulls and then coming back again. And maybe it's the case of Sentinels getting those big plays
Oh,
to
here
start
it
to
is.
shine.
Cage triggered.
That's the aggression you were talking about, but it could backfire because now they're out of position. They've been flashed down, but Sinatra holds in with Napa. This could be the beginning of the end. They get fended off through Hookah. Crashies, who's been phenomenal for Envy throughout the entire map. He's been Mr. Consistent. He needs to come in for some more, but Shazam using the dark cover to his advantage. And now Crashies has fallen. Shazam with another one. All falls down to Mummy, 1 on 4. And you can stab the air with frustration all you want. It's not going to bring back your teammates.
Yeah, that aggressive defense, while it didn't catch a kill, it allowed Sinatra to be able to focus purely on Hookah without having to worry about getting blindsided. And he was able to use his curveball very effectively there inside the site to put a stop to that and put Mummy in now is a very tough 1-on-4 that I just don't see how he comes out of it, Vince, but we'll see. We'll see what he's up for.
Back to the spike. Desperately hoping that Sentinels make some missed plays and great shoulder peeking. It's a beautiful insta headshot onto Sig, but it won't be good enough. This marathon, this roller coaster will come to an end, and Sentinels finally get the job done.
I can't believe this is how we get to kick things off here, Vince and I. This was a fantastic match here between Envy and Sentinels. Again, normally this particular head-to-head has been pretty dominant favor of the #1 team in the region, which is Sentinels. But that was the first time we've really seen Envy push Sentinels that hard. And of course, they have roster changes. I feel all day long that Crash is an upgrade to AKIS for that particular role on the team. And I think we've seen that come to fruition. And Food's also, shown his grit. And that was a fantastic game. That was a great comeback to get into OT to begin with there for Envy. And there were moments in that overtime where I thought Envy might just do it. They had a couple of pretty clean victories, and have map point and had a chance. But Sentinels, again, just showing you what they're made of. Again, the most stacked lineup in NA, man for man, when it comes to skill. You got to see the X factor that is Sinatro just tee off and do some crazy plays that most people can't do. And at the end, that's kind of what decided things. Sinatro had 2 back-to-back big moments at the end there to close out the game. And we're going to have to cut to a break. But when we come back, we will be able to break that down a little bit further as Yinzu will join us again. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.